they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. We've got a serious show today. This is a good one. Okay. We might get some giggles, but we might get some tears. It could be a rough one. But this is one of those. Yesterday was one of those days where, again, you hate to be given to hyperbole, but we do have a podcast, and that's what we're supposed to do, right? But yesterday was another one of those really ground-shaking days as far as the political situation. Obviously, stuff in Venezuela is heating up. I think F-18 scrambled into Venezuelan airspace yesterday, which is a massive show of force. But more than anything, Patrick Byrne made the radio circuit again. He went on to Emerald Robinson's TV show, then he went on to InfoWars and some other show, and he dropped some nuclear bombs. I mean, we're talking like nuclear bombs can't be ignored kind of stuff. Ooh. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens over the coming weeks and months. We want to unpack it here as peasants. We want to be able to see with the right perspective to explain what's happening. I had a neighbor come over yesterday. He was teaching a guitar lesson to my son. And when he was leaving, he was like, I think we're in a civil war. And I'm like, yeah? I'm like, and my biggest concern is you're my first neighbor that knows this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's bad out here. So before we jump into all of the politics of the day, Carlitos, good morning. John Atakis, good morning. Welcome, welcome. It's 10:30 in the Puerto Rico. That's awesome. Puerto Rico's pretty fun. I spent a good month there one time when my son died. Staying in the Howard Johnson Hotel attached to the hospital there where my wife. Good times. Good times. All right. So this is a clip from Elon Musk. He got interviewed by Katie Miller. I don't know when this interview was. It posted all over the place yesterday. But this interview was pretty good. It was just another one of these kind of get to know Elon kind of person. And he was asked about who he looks up to.
Who do you look up to the most?
The creator.
What's your current position on God?
God is the creator.
You don't believe in God, though, do you?
Well, I believe this universe came from something. People have different labels.
Who do you look up to the most?
I just like that.
Yeah.
Who do you look up to? The creator. Who's the creator? God. Do you believe in God? People have different labels, but it came from something. I'm like, oh, thank you. Sometimes that's all I want to hear. Like, so you don't think this is nihilistic nothingness? Like we have to find purpose. Yes, we have to find purpose. Like, oh, okay. That is the definition of liberalism. That you matter. That's it. That's all. That's the definition. You matter. So I love to hear that. It's a big deal when a technocrat like Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, comes out and says something like that. It gives ground cover, or air cover, so to speak, for a lot of other people that are trying to find their purpose. And, I understand why people looking at world religions might be a little bit confused and, like who's true, who's right. Well, I don't know that it's our job to define that necessarily as much as to find our way. Anyways, that's just my opinion, but I love that clip. I just, Elon Musk has made a kind of an arc in the way he's been able to express his belief in things. So I like it. I remember one time he was on a podcast with the Babylon Bee and they asked him to accept Jesus Christ. Have you ever heard this one?
No.
Oh, it's a good one. Do you accept Jesus Christ? He's like, well, what's he's offering? Salvation. He's like, well, absolutely, I accept him. I mean, who wouldn't accept salvation? Anyways, I thought, that's pretty cool. He's like, anyways, but Elon was pretty sincere about it. He's like, if there's good to come of it, I want a part of it. So that was really fun. Donald Trump gave a campaign rally. Susie Wiles, that podcast came out saying he's going to campaign. And then immediately he started campaigning. So he held a rally last night in Pennsylvania, frozen over Pennsylvania. It has a lot of great optics on this, his motorcade driving in the snow to the forgotten man or women that sent him to DC, the whole thing. So really fun. He did this pitch, and he's starting to do the right things. He's starting to let people see the net effect of his policies. So he brought up a mother who's got 2 kids, homeschools, and she was there to talk about tax on tips and overtime.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much. As President Trump said, I'm a mom, a wife. I homeschool my 2 brilliant children. And the no tax on tips is incredible. No tax on overtime is incredible for my husband. And it all comes back to our family. It saves us, and it's for the future of our children. And it's been such a blessing to be home with them and to have them here with me tonight. And thank you for everything, President.
We are in a broken system, right? It's you don't have to be a rocket science to figure it out. Yesterday, silver hit $61 or $62 an ounce, $61 an ounce in case it didn't hit 62. But, you know, $61 an ounce. Now, we've talked about this a couple times. When I graduated high school, silver was between $4 and $5 an ounce. Now, in 1913, 1 ounce of silver was $1. $1 silver, you know, a silver $1 piece, it was $1. So
from 1913 until when? 2002, it went up how much?
500%.
Okay.
Which, you know, that's a lot for 85 years.
Yeah.
It feels like, 500% inflation. That's a lifetime.
But then
85 years. But since I graduated high school, 20 years, right? 22 years, it's now gone up how much? 12 times?
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston, we have a problem. I've experienced a lifetime of inflation in 20 years. Right. You can't reverse these candlesticks. Okay? This is a problem. So more of that, more money in Americans' pockets, more no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and definitely more of this.
Indicted for fraud. We're learning more about this Georgia lawmaker. She is accused of illegally collecting pandemic benefits, and you're taking a look at Sharon Henderson. Federal investigators arrested her today. They say she collected nearly $18,000 in unemployment benefits using false information. Federal prosecutors say this happened while Henderson was a political candidate and later while serving in office. They believe she first applied for pandemic unemployment benefits in June 2020. At the time, she was running for a state house seat and claimed she was unemployed because Henry County schools had closed. Prosecutors say that information was false. They say she'd not worked for the school system since briefly serving as a substitute teacher in 2018, and that her employment agreement specifically said substitutes were not eligible for unemployment pay. Now, according to this indictment, Henderson continued certifying weekly benefits into mid-2021, including 8 filings made after she was sworn into office as a state representative for District 113.
Why not?
During those filings, officials say she repeatedly claimed she was unable to work because of pandemic-related issues.
She was in office.
Those statements allowed her to receive $17,811 in benefits she was not entitled to. Now, she is expected to plead not guilty when she appears in federal court today. We'll continue to keep you updated.
Well, clearly they targeted her because she's black. I mean, Every black person should be entitled to PPE unemployment loan benefits when you don't qualify, other financial benefits, unemployment, renewing her unemployment as she's running for office.
I thought that's why they were offering these benefits.
These people, dude, you just look at this, you're like you're running for office. Like, do you know how afraid most of my peers and friends are to do something wrong and cross the government? You know, people overpay their taxes just because, well, I don't know if I can take that deduction. You know, and it's like everybody's so virtuous and tries to be so honest. You know, it's like, heaven forbid you speed down the street. And then you've got these elected politicians at every level just fill out the application, take the free money. I'm untouchable. Like, what goes through your mind? You're going to go to prison over under $100,000 in fraud. Like, at least if you're going to play hard, like Nancy Pelosi style, right. You know what I mean? Like this accepting raw paychecks from PPE loan programs and unemployment programs is like super retarded.
Yeah. Okay. Super not worth it.
You're up there in the school of, Tim Waltz retarded. Okay. Yeah. Good gravy. Madam Mim, good morning. Maraizel, hello, son. Oh, that's my mom. I always get that one confused. Maraizel's my mom. Good morning. Okay, so Donald Trump was also on this political interview that he had a couple days ago, and he talked about birthright citizenship and how, there's a series of things that are major threats to our nation. Birthright citizenship, the tariff ruling that's in front of the Supreme Court, major decisions.
The case is very interesting because that case was meant for the babies of slaves. And if you look at the dates on the case, it was exactly having to do with the Civil War. That case was not meant for some rich person coming from another country, putting a foot in our country, and all of a sudden their whole family becomes, United States citizens. That case is all about slaves, the babies of slaves. And it was a good reason for doing it. And that's all it was about. And people now are understanding it. It's been explained to them. And I think the court understands it too. That would be a devastating decision if we lose that case.
That court,
because our country cannot afford to house tens of millions of people that came in through birthright citizenship. When that happened, that was meant for the babies of slaves. And if you look at the exact dates that it was passed, it all had to do with the Civil War and the ending of the Civil War. It's that little period of time, and people now are starting to understand. The case is very interesting because that...
What were you going to say?
Oh, nothing. I just thought the clip was doubling.
I think that's really interesting, right? So we've all just grown up understanding if you step foot in America and you have a baby, boom, that baby becomes an American citizen. But that's not actually how the law is written. It has to do with being under the jurisdiction of the United States. So if you're here illegally, the only jurisdiction we have is to eject you.
Yeah.
We don't have jurisdiction to collect taxes. We don't have jurisdiction to do any of that stuff, right? The only jurisdiction we have is expel the foreign invader, right? That's it. So there are active, I think there's 2 of them, congressional members who have admitted, one of them specifically admitted in Congress that her mother was raped coming across the border while she was pregnant with her. And she's a sitting member of Congress. She's an illegal alien. Her mother committed a crime to come into this country specifically to give birth to a daughter to lay claim to the birthright. That is an overt illegal act, right? You can't get lifetime benefit through an overt illegal act like that. Like it flies against all the maxims of law. So it'll be really interesting how that does. Now, we have had mass immigration before, right? Like in the 1890s to the 1920s, we had a huge mass influx of population. Then we kind of capped it. Eventually, we had a big deportation push in the 1950s coming home from World War II. It was like, hey, thanks, Mexicans. We needed you to come fill the fields, but now the soldiers are home and they need to do their own farming, right? That kind of thing. Well, now we have more percentage and per capita foreign-born people in the United States, which causes a major assimilation problem because this generation of immigrants don't share a common heritage. Most of the immigrants that came in the last big wave came from Europe, white Europeans, right? Now they're coming from Mogadishu and Afghanistan and places like that, and they're not assimilating. Stephen Miller addressed that.
Clearly, we need to have in this country exactly what President Trump called for, which is that we need a moratorium on immigration from third world countries until we can heal ourselves as a nation, solve our education issues, solve our healthcare issues, our public safety issues, our assimilation issues, our cultural issues. So the 1924 Act is such a good example because we had large-scale immigration from Europe from 1880 to 1920. So in other words, we went from a country that had immigration from part of Europe to immigration from many other parts of Europe. But even other European countries pose enormous stresses on the U.S. system, both economically and in terms of security. There's a lot of crime, a lot of threats to public safety and order, and those were addressed with very strict new immigration quotas. What they don't teach you in school is that from 1920 to 1970, there was negative migration. There was a half century of negative migration. The foreign-born population declined by 40% for half a century. During that same time period, Will, the U.S. population doubled from natural childbirth. That was the cauldron in which a unified shared national identity was formed. They went through a depression together. They went through world wars together. They landed on the moon together. This great period in American history happened at a time when there was negative migration. They don't teach that to our kids in school. And frankly, I would submit very few politicians serving in Congress probably know that.
Yeah, to create that cauldron, as he calls it, of a unified country.
Yeah.
When we say make America great again, a lot of people are hearkening back to this period of time where everybody joined the team. Everybody got on board with the common defense, the common good, our common welfare through the Great Depression, right? And now we face a lot of the same challenges. I mean, we are in a pre-World War II demographic and sociological situation. What I hate to say it, but what Hitler faced in Germany is very similar on the things we face today, right? And so how are we going to deal with it? Are we going to come together? Or are we going to rip each other apart? Right now, I think we have a unique window of opportunity right now where we can clean up some internal issues and we can, like right the course. We can become a homogenous, not necessarily homogenous in every way, but we can become a unified people, right? You might have different opinions on tax rates. You might have different opinions on, allowing HOAs or zoning rules. Those are all up for debate. That's the political spectrum. But what's not up for debate is our belief in the country and this people and her defense, right? And that we take care of our neighbors and that we want to clean up public spaces. Like, these are not up for debate. Those should be unified goals, right? When we talk about a nonpartisan, a nonpartisan is just like, I'm here to clean up the trash and put away the chairs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really here to support whatever campaign. And that's how 90% of the real population is. They're nonpartisan. We got to live here. Like, it doesn't really matter who's in charge. I just want a job. I just want some basic stuff. Now, with this phase of migration, one of the things I love, because as someone who's done some political commentary and has kind of been on the accidental front lines of this quote unquote civil war, right, is the political correctness doesn't allow us to say the obvious thing, right? The assimilation problem. It's not that migration is a, huge offense, but who's migrating and what their intention is when they migrate is a big deal. Here's Tommy Tuberville talking about the specific threat that Islamic migration causes.
There's some people come over from some of these countries that want to come here for a better life, and they're going to assimilate and go by the things that we believe in, go by our Constitution. The Muslim group, Steve, this is World War III. Okay, and it's going to be on our soil, and it's coming so fast. Within 5 or 10 years, it is going to be way out of control. We have a prime example of this. Europe is gone, and they will have to fight in the streets to get it back, and that's coming. And so we do not want that to happen here. And the people of Alabama, the people of Hoover saw this, and they want to stop it before it really gets started. Don't let the fire start and get out of control. And I'm so proud of what they did. Europe
is going to have to fight in the streets. Yesterday at the Peasants Pod living room, our European listener was saying just this. She's like, it's popping off in Ireland first, but it's coming fast.
Wow.
Right? They don't have the ability to deport people there because of their parliamentary precedent system. It's one in, one out. Keir Starmer thinks he's a huge champion. Hey, Macron, if somebody crosses the channel, we get to deport one of the criminals that came before.
Well, they don't really have Second Amendment things either.
They don't have anything.
Right.
So
that's a tough.
United Kingdom is in a tough spot. France, Italy, Greece, every Sweden's now becoming one of the most unsafe places in the world. It used to be one of the safe places just a decade ago.
Wow.
Right. They're I think Stockholm, if I'm not mistaken, might be the rape capital of the world at the moment.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. But don't worry, it's just Asian men from the Middle East doing it. Right.
Okay.
So now
I feel better already.
Yeah, seriously. One of the questions we constantly ask ourselves as peasant is, why is this happening? Like, is it, the lack of common sense? Like, I don't understand why you implement that policy. It's so hurtful for all of your constituents. Like, and you're pitching it with a talking point, but it seems obvious sometimes. It's like, what's happening here? How did we get to this spot? Why are people ignoring the elephant in the room and just acting like it doesn't exist? Topics like election fraud. This J6 pipe bomber story is like, all right, this doesn't square. Your evidence doesn't stack up. But don't worry, we've solved the case. It was a cold case. I don't know about that.
Well, I keep hearing about like rich Ukrainians driving Bugattis in Monaco and it's that kind of thing. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So let's throw some more money at Ukraine. Why? We have to defend democracy. They haven't had an election in a couple of years. It's like, what? How do we get here? Well, Patrick Byrne unloaded yesterday. So first and foremost, I'm going to tease a video that I'm going to play later. We're going to get a little bit of Patrick Byrne today. Patrick Byrne, turns out, has been a deep CIA asset for many, many years. He was made a tier 1 national intelligence asset under Barack Obama, which basically means his word's golden and he's the right hand of the president. He was a direct asset of the president of the United States. So he's lied about this for years, right? In fact, he committed a 15-year felony just disclosing it on TV yesterday, but he felt like he had good reason. Why? Because we're in a civil war. To his knowledge, he's the only known rogue CIA agent now that has ever gone rogue at this level, which makes perfect sense why he was giving the bribe to Hillary Clinton, why he was running around with Maria Butina, why he set up a hotel room for Don Jr. to come in and have a liaison with Maria Butina. It makes perfect sense why he hasn't been hauled in and charged with multiple different things, given his admitted involvement and stuff. We've always just thought he's kind of played off this. I have this intellectual relationship with the deep state, or the FBI, but I don't touch the CIA. Turns out he's been CIA the whole time. And which is also why he's been able to globetrot around with Gary and gather up all this Venezuela information and all that kind of stuff. And General Flynn's vouched for him. If you're not paying attention to stuff Patrick Byrne says, if you're letting any kind of internet, hey, Patrick Byrne's crazy. Of course he is. This is literally the guy who broke down Wall Street and won a $30-something million settlement from Goldman Sachs, right? He's challenging people. In fact, part of this was to the people that he makes these allegations that I'm about to share with you. Sue me. Let's go, right? This is serious stuff. So this is the point in the show where we get this little snapshot, this little moment that allows us to see a fork in the road. And it allows us to explain the unexplainable behavior of certain cabinet members and then everything downstream from that. So this is, do we need to do
I'm trying.
Before we listen to this? Because this is going to be good. When we start this is like edge of your seat kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's not.
You got to hit your refresh button there. We have to figure out how to do raids. Mari Ezel says, my Danish friends say Denmark is overrun by Muslims, causing a huge problem. Yes. Yeah. It's so funny. I used to be on different, before I went to prison. We're going to have to
skip it.
Before I went to prison, I was, what was I on? Must have been just Telegram. But, right when Telegram was new, we were like connecting with all these people in Ukraine and Russia and all over the world, because we just got kicked off Twitter and we're like, oh, what else is out here? And, but yes, listening to people from Europe, specifically Netherlands, I remember they were talking a lot about essentially what they felt was like a Muslim invasion. And I used to chalk all that stuff up to, the real far right wingers, those KKK guys, one black man moves in the neighborhood and the whole neighborhood's ruined. But then over the years, I've started to realize, well, dumping 40,000 Haitians into Springfield, Ohio with 20,000 white population was a problem. I can see why you don't even have to be a far right wing Nazi to go, this doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Okay. Explanations. Why do those things happen? Why in the world would our political leaders open the gates? Why would they let 40,000 Haitian immigrants into a community with 20,000 people?
Or
why
pay for the migration with planes and buses and, housing.
Yeah. And, what we've dissected is Laura Logan's stuff with the SIGI, the Central Command of the quote deep state, how they protect themselves. We kind of see, we have these little windows into the corruption and, some of it's individual, like that state representative in Texas that just got arrested for PPE fraud, etc. That's on her own.
Yeah.
Right. That's just loser stuff. But stuff like that leads to control, which now we're going to start talking about how the CIA does this. So let's listen to Patrick Byrne. We're going to war with Venezuela or some kind of conflict. They're telling the public it's about narco drug boats. That's pretty hard to say, don't kill the drug dealers, right? So that when people bark against that, you have to kind of wonder. Here it is. There is a huge rift inside the government. Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio 100% see what we see. Venezuela attacked the United States. They've been the hand for the world's bad guys, election rigging, Tren de Agua, all down the road. Okay. Ratcliffe and Hegseth see that. Rick Grinnell, who's a special envoy for president, and Ratcliffe, director of the CIA, do not want to go there. They want to put a new cartel guy in charge of Venezuela and just get a sweet oil deal. Okay. Here's why that's happening.
Okay.
That's huge. That's two huge bombshells right now. But I can't ignore the third.
Oh, wrong clip. Of course I would do that. Wrong clip. Let me grab this other clip. It's important.
Dang.
It's worth the wait.
Oh, yeah.
I prepped it for a long time. I must have swapped it with my later clip. Where is it? Please. I have to look for it if I don't have it. For some reason, I grabbed the wrong one. Okay. Darn it. All right. Give me just a second, guys. Apologize. Can you get a read going?
I've been trying.
What is the deal with that? Thanks for being patient, everybody. I appreciate it.
Ooh, here we go. Bam. Might as well do this if I can. Yes.
Do it.
Still haven't tried 7075 copy. Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped only 1,000 units. Again, just like yesterday. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic.
Heck no.
The frother stronger enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's worth it. It is. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something like Rumble does.
So one of my favorite podcasters, Scott Adams, the Dilbert cartoonist, he's got this thing at the beginning of a show where he's like, grab a tanker, flask, or a cup or a mug of your favorite beverage. Mine's coffee, and join me for the simultaneous sip. Anyways, as soon as he's done with his podcast, hopefully years from now, we're picking up that starting. I don't want to plagiarize him right now, but we will do it in honor, and we'll get some 17.
We'll do the simultaneous sip.
Yep. All right. I got the right clip here. So this is Patrick Byrne. This is revelatory.
All right.
Okay. This is revelatory. If you accept the fact that he's a high level CIA operative, tier 1 national asset, and to his knowledge, there were no other tier 1 national assets. So this guy is like the billionaire they send around the world to go talk to billionaires and flip them and turn them and do that kind of stuff. Okay. So if you accept that, which you should, honestly, if you look at Patrick Byrne's work over the last 5 years, it's hard to deny that doesn't check out and make sense. Okay. So if you understand that, and when you hear what he's saying, this is like putting the cards on the table. Like, I'm calling your bluff, right? This is unbelievably important for us to just absorb.
Rick Brunel, I'm told from 2 independent sources, shagged a 14, 15-year-old boy, and the Russians have the videos. So he's owned. John Ratcliffe, I'm also told, on good authority, very good authority within the intelligence community, John Ratcliffe, who I've met twice and seemed like a nice enough man. I don't hate the guy, but he's got a similar problem. And it's not underage, it's not a boy, but on 2 occasions he was drawn into hotel rooms with young women, and it's on video. He's owned. John Ratcliffe's not really running the CIA. John Brennan is. The top 2 layers of the CIA are John Brennan's guy. This would explain some odd facts about John Ratcliffe, and this really sticks in my craw. John Ratcliffe was the DNI in the last days of Trump. He, by law, had to deliver on December 18th. That was the day he had to deliver his report on whether or not there was foreign involvement in the election. He didn't deliver. He waited until January 7th, the day after January 6th, when there's all that hubbubaloo, and then he delivers a report, and his report was the official report to the intelligence community that they didn't think there was foreign involvement or that China was involved, but he put a cover letter on that said, I officially dispute, I think China was involved. And he slipped this in on January 7th, where it barely made a blip because everything that was going on by January 7th, 2020.
It made a blip to us. We covered this on January 8th, 2021. As I got back, I was like, hey, man, it's official. Ratcliffe finally told us China it was involved in the election. We're going to win. Biden won't be sworn in. Yeah, apparently timing's everything, isn't it?
Why did he do that? He's owned. To see John Ratcliffe in January, I went to see him first in July of 2018, 17 months into Trump's term. I went over and turned over to John Ratcliffe because he was on the Nunes committee, and I met him a second time in late October and fed him everything he needed to know. He sat, he dawdled, he spun. He said, well, we can't. He shocked me by saying, well, we went to the CIA, but we can only confirm 25% of what you're telling me. I said, you're kidding me. I came to you as a whistleblower. You went over to the CIA, asked about me, are you out of your mind? Well, that guy, you know why he's acting that way? Because he got twice lured into DC hotel rooms, 2 different girls, not at the same time, shagged them, and it's on video. So he's a puppet of John Brennan. Rick Grinnell is a puppet of Russia, Brennan, somebody. That's why the CIA is fighting teeth, toes, and fingernails to fight turning Venezuela over to the woman who just won the Nobel Prize, who has 80 to 90% support. They don't want to turn it over. They want to turn it over to Delcy Rodriguez. That's why, because they're barely Americans. They're being blackmailed. John Ratcliffe and Rick Grinnell are being blackmailed. And, so let's get that on. Let's get that on. And sorry, fellas, last thing I want to do was come out and do this. But CIA is making me mad. So I'm letting you know, part of the reason I know this is I am CIA. I was CIA. John Ratcliffe is being blackmailed for 2 liaisons in DC hotel rooms, and Rick Grinnell shagged a 14, 15-year-old Serbian boy, and the Russians have the film. They should not be in this government, but that's why they're down there trying to get Venezuela, trying to keep us from. Here's Venezuela has done something that's 10,000 times worse than Pearl Harbor. And they're down, and they've been for this whole administration trying to tell Trump, oh, it's okay. Look, we'll talk them into giving us some mining concessions in the South. Oh, we'll make it all good. We'll make it. So that's what they're doing. They have fought us at every step of the way. I'm going to drop one last thing. I've tried through official channels to get this to the right place. Todd Blanche at the FBI has made it impossible for anybody in law enforcement to accept any piece of information, any photographs, any hard drive, anything from me. And John Ratcliffe of the CIA has made it impossible for any member of the intelligence community to also accept a hard drive, anything from me. I turned over, and there's a 20-year DEA veteran who has witnessed this and given an affidavit. I turned over incredibly damning material to the FBI in 2021, 2022. Numerous, it was all, the story I got eventually was that Christopher Wray, at the instructions of Merrick Garland, took it in and nuked it in the FBI lab there in DC. I still have it all. I still have the proof. I've been trying for 10 months to turn it back into the FBI, along with this and that.
I have to say something.
This is incredible.
The lab, when I got arrested, within a week or two, my defense attorney sent me an email saying, hey, the crime lab in DC just lost its accreditation. This might affect your case. When you read through the report, essentially what they do, attach fingerprints to bullets that didn't have fingerprints in order to frame a guy. They hid evidence, buried evidence, gave reports of things that had, exculpatory evidence. Like, I'll just remove that. Okay, they got caught red-handed doing this, and they lost their accreditation, so they had to outsource the crime lab to Virginia or whatever. Now, presumably, they got their accreditation back, right? Cleaned up or whatever, but same crime lab, guys. Same crime lab. So it checks. It checks out.
Everybody has blocked me, and it's from Todd Blanche, it's from John Ratcliffe. Who knows who Todd Blanche shagged? I have no idea if he shagged somebody he wouldn't have. But both Rick Grinnell shagged an underage boy, and John Ratcliffe shagged some young women, but not underage. And it's all on video, and they're owned. But
so that explains a lot. It explains a lot. I've followed Patrick Byrne since the day he quit Overstock.com and went on TV and just, I was part of Russiagate. I was in the middle of it all, blah, blah, blah. And he did his whole TV thing for a day, and then silence. Never back on TV again. Never mentioned him in polite society again. But everything he said, predicted, said would be revealed, every single piece of it has been revealed, to the point now that you've got another letter that came out yesterday about the number 2, so that you've got the number 2 in charge, and now you've got the general of Venezuela that just sent out a letter and said, yeah, we absolutely were trying to overthrow the country. Same motivation, but these guys are evil, right? I started out working as a socialist, trying to help my country, and then we got really greedy, and now I've realized we're full on evil, is essentially what's going on. Trump and his rally emphasizing, again, these things intersect. the opening the doors and letting migration in, the start of World War III by creating internal conflicts and civil war. If we go to war with ourselves, World War III will break out. Why would we do this? Why would we accept all these people from shithole countries?
I've also announced a permanent pause on third world migration, including from hellholes like Afghanistan, Haiti, Somalia, and many other countries.
All of those countries are countries that the CIA has had extended involvement in, and they've created situations where they can send plane loads, bus loads, and waves of migrants into your and my communities without attempting to assimilate them, putting them on the public charge, so we have to pay for it, all coming from countries where the CIA has been heavily involved. This isn't Italy. This isn't Ireland. This isn't people immigrating from, our roots in Western Europe. These are people coming from nations that our CIA has had open and hostile involvement. And we're importing the people that we have displaced. Huge recipe for disaster because we, in many ways, made those countries shitholes.
I didn't say shithole, you did.
You better apologize.
Remember, I said that to the senators. They came in, the Democrats. They wanted to be bipartisan. So they came in and they said, this is totally off the record. Nothing mentioned here. We want to be honest because our country was going to hell. And we had a meeting. And I said, why is it we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let's have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime. The only thing they're good at is going after ships.
They're good at it, going after ships.
Oh, man. Brutal.
This all ties together. It makes perfect sense. You have the director of the CIA that is blackmailed by who? You have the special envoy that the president said, Rick Grinnell, who, Ron, do you know how my story and Rick Grinnell intersect over and over again? It is Rick Grinnell posted my wanted poster, which caused me to turn myself in, which, by the way, was a huge blessing because I avoided the whole house raid and everything, got way out in front of, they'd probably stalked me for 6 months, right? Instead, I kind of straight into their front door. Hey, that's me. Thank you, Rick Grinnell. Then Rick Grinnell is instrumental in getting my friend's son released as a hostage in Venezuela. Again, Rick Grinnell's involved. But back then, I was hearing rumblings about Rick Grinnell being compromised. There were questions. Hey, we've got to deal with this Venezuela thing. They're behind the Smartmatic. And Rick Grinnell was extending, 60-day extensions for deals with Chevron and all these kind of stuff. And I was like, thank you for getting the hostages home. But the bigger picture thing doesn't make a lot of sense, right? You start to kind of, Rick Grinnell's not necessarily working for Trump.
Maybe he's got a different kind of relationship than we thought with them.
Yeah, could be. It's hard to know. So here is Patrick Byrne talking. This is the clip I started to play. No, it's not the clip I started to play. All right, let's just continue on here. General Flynn was on InfoWars just prior to Patrick Byrne when he got on and said this stuff. Now, General Flynn knew that Patrick Byrne was going to reveal these things because General Flynn, Patrick Byrne talks about General Flynn being his unofficial handler. Like if Flynn says I can say it, I'm going to say it, right? So Flynn was on before Patrick Byrne, and he had this to say.
The only reason why we're able to break through what is happening, break through this what is essentially this color revolution that's been going on for the better part of a decade now, is because of voices like yours, and there are other influencers out there who got it a long time ago and have continued to beat this drum. So we need to keep doing this because it is working. We are being effective in getting the word out. Now, I will say, in fact, the last time I think it was on your show, I kind of laid out, the essence of the color revolution and the stages that we are in, the steps that are being taken against us to be able to continue to undermine, the presidency of Donald J. Trump. Trump is now starting to really understand the depth and the extended period of time that we have been that this revolution has been ongoing. Others have talked about a counter-revolution. I've labeled this as a form of the CCP's unrestricted warfare, which is essentially the conduct of a war without rules. So, I mean, they will continue to lie. They will continue to target those of us whose voices matter, those of us who are standing up and standing our ground. You're one of them, and your great audience that has continued to support you. And thank God that they have, because we need your voice. We need other voices that are out there. We need to have these voices right now who understand the geopolitical environment that we are in, as well as the homeland security environment that we need. And right now, there's a balance that Donald J. Trump is trying to do. He's trying to balance everything that the American American national security needs to make sure that we stay on top of overseas, right? And trade and all the stuff and all the different wars that are going on, the reconstruction efforts.
But if he doesn't go after the deep state, it's not going to matter.
It will not matter one iota. That's the second part of this thing, is this homeland security environment. And I'm not talking about securing the borders or getting rid of all these illegals. I'm actually talking about basically getting in and revolutionizing our government. I mean, reforming our government, getting inside of the components of our government that actually are doing damage to his ability to be able to lead this country.
And he has the bully pulpit, as you said 2 weeks ago. As you said 2 weeks ago, he needs to address the nation. He's done it in little ways and through his surrogates. A week after you said that, I saw the surrogates go out. It was confirmed. They listened to you. They said this is true. They had a CIA briefing, literally telling the media this. So that's a huge breakthrough, but it's not a one-off. It's got to be the war drum of, we have these criminal group inside that's generating all these attacks. It's the mothership firing all the torpedoes. You got to take it out. Ladies and gentlemen,
now some ads. So what Flynn is directly discussing there is getting rid of this deep state apparatus, these people that are obstructing Trump from instituting the agenda of which the American people voted him on. Who are those people? Top of the list, John Ratcliffe and Rick Cornell. They are right there in the decision room. Apparently, part of these we've gotten these public whistleblower things from these Venezuela authorities. Apparently, there's a second thing that's a more complete letter, same letter, but fills in the names of politicians and stuff. Apparently, there was a general that was on the Venezuelan payroll that was part of planning this initial invasion we were going to have that Trump called off because he thought, I think I'm getting set up for a trap, which he probably was. So they pulled that guy out, right, by the last second. But he was named by the general as one of these bought off people in the system. They're all over the place. That's how you end up in a situation like Europe's in, who doesn't have the same immune system we have. This civil war we're in is ideological and it's policy, right? This is Nigel Farage in Europe describing what our future will be if we don't get in front of this stuff, because it is a two-front war. It's a cultural war that is giving the consent and support for the people that are trying to destroy our beautiful constitutional system in order to implement what? Sharia law. One of the other things Patrick Byrne mentioned, and he, listened to a couple hours of him talking yesterday, says people misunderstand the Muslim world. Muslims are the believers in Islam. He says this idea of the nation state is a European construct, right? The difference between Turkey and Iraq and Iran, Iran's Persian, but Iraq, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Pakistan, these are all Muslim countries, predominantly Muslim, believe in Islam. The nation state separation between them they believe is a phase. Islam views the world as those that believe and those that have not yet submitted, right? That's it. And so they work in this like conjunction. And so we have some nation states like Turkey that are allies, part of NATO, but they are absolutely funding Muslim Brotherhood and Caire terror activities, right? Because to them, it's like, we do want to stop NATO and stop the U.S. That's in our long-term interest.
It's pretty weird.
They're using it as a short-term interest. And this is what it does to European nations.
And I'm sorry, but if you as a country allow young men who come from countries in which women aren't even classed as second-class citizens.
What happened here is responding to is there's a immigrant that raped a teenager, and he got let off in court because, quote, this is from their judicial decision. There are cultural differences, he added, the judge. He is not used to a society where women are free and deemed equal. He is not used to a society where alcohol is freely available. He is morally at sea.
Oh, geez.
There are massive cultural barriers that have become massive moral barriers. He suggested that the rapist could still be able to, quote, make a life for himself in this country when he is released.
Oh, my gosh.
And you put them up.
Ideological. This is weaponization of your virtue. You raped a person. Well, you didn't know you weren't supposed to. Scott Bessent says when you come to this country, you got to learn to drive on the right side of the road, stop at the stop signs, don't defraud the American government, and I'll go ahead and throw in, and don't rape our women.
Right.
In 4-star hotels, allow them to work illegally. Their attitude towards women is completely different to ours. So the social effects of this are appalling as well. And I'm
appalling as well. Now, I don't like to go into, great detail of all the assaults and things like that, but suffice it to say, it would make your skin curl what they're allowing to happen in Europe and what we are allowing in some of our dense cities where we've had this unchecked migration. Right. Even if you go to a place like Springfield, Ohio, you'll find assaults, burglary, battery, and rape at all-time highs. Why? Well, it's these illegal immigrants that have no moral compass. Right. This is J.D. Vance addressing all of this. Right. It's part of the whole thing. You immigrate these people. They come in. They change our values. They launder money.
Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign.
And again, the people doing this, the people that are in charge, that are supposed to close our border and protect us, instead of being busy doing that, they're busy trying to overthrow the government to keep those borders open.
Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points through the American intelligence services. That's a violation of the people's trust. That's a violation of what our intelligence services should be doing. And I absolutely think they broke the law. And you're going to see a lot of people get indicted for that. Here's the thing that should really bother the American people. What do you want our intelligence community to be doing? I want them to be catching bad guys. I want them to be making sure that terrorists aren't going to kill innocent American civilians. I don't want them laundering Hillary Clinton's campaign talking points into the American media and giving them this air of legitimacy. It is sick. And it's disgusting. It hurt the intelligence community. It hurt the American people, and it hurt the first Trump administration. We've got to have consequences for it.
So I used to kind of chalk up, well, Chris Wray and Comey, these guys, it's just power. It's about power. And now, after what Patrick Byrne says, it's like our worst suspicions are probably true.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are totally bought, paid, infiltrated. Right here is the state election board meeting. This is from yesterday. Okay, this is down in Fulton County, Georgia. They're still trying to figure out what happened in 2020. Okay, now what have we been told about our voting machines? They're not connected to the internet. They can't be accessed by the internet. But even though contrary evidence and hackers that do YouTube videos, look, I hacked the voting machine. I'm in high school, right? Over and over again. Well, they had this board hearing where they're in an appeals court. They're trying to get the case dismissed. And this is the attorney for Fulton County that's talking about the poll pads, which are your election machines that were deleted. But don't worry, devil's in the details on this one.
So we agree with some of the facts and we disagree with some of the other facts. Yes, 3 poll pads went missing. No, we don't.
Yes, 3 poll pads went missing.
I don't think we failed to tell the Secretary of State's office. Having said that, the person who would have been in charge of this at the time no longer works for the office. But I do want to emphasize that these were poll pads that were used for training, and No Ink did wipe them. There wouldn't have been anything on them to begin with since they were used for training. But No Ink it is undisputed that No Ink was notified immediately, and No Ink was able to remotely wipe them.
No Link is the company that manages it. Okay. No Link was able, you got to hear this. No Link was able to
remotely wipe them. So they
were able to remotely wipe the ballot counting machines, Ron.
Security issue here, and we disagree that we would not have. I mean, why would we have told No Ink and not the Secretary of State's office? That doesn't make a ton of sense.
Why would you tell No Ink that the poll pads are missing so that they could wipe them remotely, but not tell the Secretary of State's office? I don't know, because maybe the contract says these aren't supposed to be accessed remotely.
We would request that this case be dismissed.
So since we did it accidentally, we think we've notified the Secretary of State that we remotely wiped some voting machines. We think it's okay. Oh, and don't worry, they were just for practice, though.
Are there any questions for Fulton County?
He said no. Got any questions for him, Taylor?
Virtually?
Listen,
like
this is
knowing wipe them virtually.
Like remotely?
Yeah. Disabled, I guess. Is the
Okay.
term of art.
Oh, don't worry. They just disabled them. It wasn't just wiping. They disabled them by wiping them.
Oh.
Deep breath. Deep breath. Now, fortunately, according to President, we're still going to find out. This isn't over.
I think
You know, think of it. If our election wasn't rigged, it was a rigged election. Now everyone knows. It's going to come out over the next couple of months too, loud and clear, because we have all the information. But if the election wasn't rigged and stolen, you wouldn't even be talking about Ukraine right now.
There is not a land.
We're still going to find out. The election was rigged and stolen, and there's prima facie evidence. Listen, if you're telling me the poll pads can be wiped remotely, don't tell me what your audit count was.
Right.
PB Brown Boy Scouts, if you're listening, I'm sorry. They're connected to the internet. I can't audit that. I don't know code. I can't do that. It's completely, there's a couple dozen people in a state that could read through lines of code like that and see anything. And guess what? It wouldn't be hard to buy them off, would it? In fact, John Brennan talks exactly how they allegedly buy off and blackmail foreign assets. And if you think they do it overseas, if you don't think they do it domestically, you're crazy.
Agents, the people that you recruit, foreign citizens, if they are hesitant to continue to spy for you, you can remind them that when they were first recruited and they signed a sheet of paper saying that they had taken some money from us, which is usually what happens.
Or you were on some inappropriate websites, or you went into a hotel room, et cetera, et cetera.
That you could remind them about that.
Remind them. That's called blackmail.
Yeah.
Almost as a way to scare them into continuing to work with you.
As a pressure.
Yes. And I said to the instructor, I said, that sounds like blackmail. And he got rather angry at me and said, it's not blackmail. This is the security of the United States we're talking about. You have to do whatever you can in order to keep people on working for the CIA.
Huh.
Oh.
Okay.
I've got it.
So if they get a little sketchy on you, if they start to, make common sense, no, this is not blackmail. This is the security of the United States. So you got a guy like Rand Paul, who, oddly enough, gets the ire and attention of Donald Trump quite frequently, allegedly works with him on insurance. But when it comes to killing drug dealers, oh, heaven forbid we do that. In light of what we've learned with top level people in the government being completely on the payroll, blackmailed and controlled by these, non-United States interested assets. Listen to what Rand Paul says and tell me if this sounds crazy for a senator from Kentucky.
You believe it should be released, Senator? Yes, without question. I think if people were to see the images of people clinging to the wreckage, there would not be much sympathy for Secretary Hegseth. To order the killing of people who shipwrecked is clearly illegal according to military justice, according to our own military laws. And, I have members of my staff who were high ranking in the military, and they tell me this is done for the protection of our soldiers. If our pilots have to eject from a plane, we show that we don't shoot people. We don't shoot pilots that are descending by parachute. If we blow up a boat and there are survivors, we don't shoot those people. We don't sidle up in a boat and take a 9mm pistol out, put it to their head and shoot them. Nobody would do that. But just because the missiles come from a long distance doesn't make it any more right. But it's clearly against our laws of war. And even deeper than that, there is a question of, are unarmed people that are smugglers part of a war? Are we in the middle of a war with unarmed people?
Yes! Yes, Rand Paul! Yes, your state has been devastated by all flavors of drugs. And don't just tell me it's bathtub meth. It's everything. It's not just cocaine. It's fentanyl. It's the entire culture that this creates. Are we at war? Yes! Yes!
Why don't they present evidence that they're in arms? Why don't they present evidence that these boats are even coming to the United States? These are small motorboats, often 2,000 miles from our shore. If they have drugs, which hasn't been proven, if they have drugs, they're probably taking it to neighboring islands. So this is a crazy thing that we've never done before. And to make a crime into war is to stretch credulity to the point that I think a lot of common sense people don't buy it.
Now, if it was just in a vacuum and you were droning American citizens on legitimate fishing vessels with their nets out, I could understand the consternation. Right? But this is like I don't know, man. I mean, you'll fund endless amounts of DARE programs and domestic things to get the little guys, but the actual suppliers, oh heaven, those aren't war combatants. That's not poison. They're bringing on those high-speed fishing vessels with 4 $250,000 motors on the back.
Right, and it's like half cocaine, half gas.
If you want to know how it works, Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley's 92 years old, and he, by the way, is the big champion of whistleblowers, right? Turns out a little deep dive into Chuck Grassley maybe opens the door for us to consider something like, maybe Grassley's an old timer. He's got one of those really old blackmail letters on file. Chuck Grassley is 92. He entered politics in 1958 in Iowa and 1974 at the federal level. 1974. Did you know that on June 22nd, 1985, Grassley and his wife Barbara were involved in a plane crash? The plane, piloted by Irv Linder, took off from Fort Madison Municipal Airport and had to land in an oat field just beyond the airport due to a faulty fuel pump. Yes, 1986 was an election year for the senator. Guess what was going on at the time? Iran-Contra. CIA, cocaine network being exposed. SNL scandal with the CIA and mafia ties. And then out of nowhere, Grassley authors the Whistleblower Protection Act of 1989. He didn't do it because he actually gives a bleep about whistleblowers. He did that to control which whistleblowers get heard and which ones don't. He is the very definition of a gatekeeper for the deep state. Go back and look. He signed a collective letter to Trump demanding to keep NAFTA. Why? Because NAFTA is a vehicle to the American version of the EU. That was the plan, and Grassley was firmly planted on that train. In April 2017, Grassley co-sponsored the Israel Anti-Boycott Act. In 2005, Grassley authored the Green New Deal's E-Pact when he was chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. On June 28, 2005, he voted for the bill, and 2 years later, after nudging the Green New Deal open, on June 9th, 2007, Grassley helped expand tax incentives that produces energy from alternative sources, including ethanol, wind, biomass, and biodiesel. He wrote a Green New Deal bill. Grassley has been in politics the entire time the CIA has been exposed over and over again as a rogue, covert paramilitary, trafficking narcotics and conducting assassinations. His solution was not to hold the CIA accountable, but to set up a whistleblower law so he could control who was heard and secretly allow leaks as to who the whistleblowers are back to the agencies. Now, after decades of being a corrupt politician, pretending to be a good guy, he is the biggest impediment to Trump's carrying out his mandate. You have a corrupt judiciary in part because of Chuck Grassley. Because what is Chuck Grassley doing right now? Holding the blue slip.
Wow.
Holding Trump's administration hostage over the tradition, the gentleman's agreement of a blue slip. This is the guy who's the gatekeeper for whistleblowers and has been for a long time. What happened in that plane wreck? Was that a, hey, you're pretty vulnerable, look what could happen? Down in the oat field, who knows? There's other people too that make you wonder what's going on. I remember this moment. This was the moment my heart broke. This is when McCarthy was being taken out as Speaker of the House, and this is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look at that. Look at that face there. It's pretty smiley for a person who vehemently disagreed with his policies. Look at this. It's a pretty caring face there. A lot of people saw this and they thought, what? I remember exactly where I was when I saw those images. I was in my brother-in-law's driveway hooking up machinery and I had my phone on. And when I heard and I looked and I saw that little series of events, I thought, that is really weird. That is really weird. Makes you wonder a lot. Makes you wonder because when you hear stuff like this, Marjorie Taylor Greene coming on
You're going to have to
TV.
explain this one to me because I am not as familiar with her as you are, and so I don't know what that means.
What do you mean?
The smiles.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, before she campaigned, she was a real QAnon person, like literally, quoting QAnon, reposting, all that kind of stuff. She ran for office and she was lambasted as this extremist. Now, keep in mind, she was elected in 2020. So she was sworn in days before January 6th. Okay. So she came in, and when she came in, because of her extremism, they passed a resolution that barred her from having any committee meeting seats. So she's elected to Congress, but not sitting on any committees. Now, she used good time, and for 2 years, she went on the House floor and basically obstructed Nancy Pelosi's agenda. She slowed it down, made floor votes and stuff like that. So huge credit to her. Like, she slowed down a lot of stuff, like big deal. Right. However, during this, eventually, when the Republicans took back the House and McCarthy became the Speaker, McCarthy wasn't doing anything. Like, he wasn't doing anything that was pushing MAGA forward. And at first, she was a huge critic of McCarthy. But after the 2 years she was reelected, she struck some kind of deal with McCarthy and got put on committee seats, stuff. And that's when their relationship turned into that. So then when Matt Gaetz went to go remove McCarthy, which Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene had become staunch allies in the House, all of a sudden they're totally opposed. You had Matt Gaetz, Boebert, Biggs, a couple other people over here trying to get rid of McCarthy, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who should have been leading that group, ended up siding with McCarthy. She clearly struck some kind of deal.
Okay.
There were rumors of romantic involvement, et cetera, right? But that was kind of the point where she started to do this. I can do my own thing. And she, at that point, that's when I believe the left thought, hey, we can get some hooks in her. We can give her what she wants, which is some popularity, some fame, some airtime, because no news is bad news when you're in politics, right? Sometimes just the attention is enough, because when you get negative attention from a place like CNN or MSNBC, it stirs up the right and they make campaign donations. This is like a game as old as time. Right?
Right.
So here she is on CNN talking bad about Trump. Now, I understand they've had a huge public falling out, but again, you have to ask yourself, what's behind this? You came into Congress worth about $2 million, you're worth $30 million. Right. You came into Congress to do a bunch of stuff. And now that Trump's in power, what's going on here? Listen to this.
To be precise. In addition to what we just heard there, President Trump posted yesterday that you are, quote, and I'm quoting him now, not America first or MAGA. And your, quote, new views are those of a very dumb person. That's the president of the United States speaking about you. What's your response to these latest attacks?
Well, actually, Wolf, I feel very sorry for President Trump. I genuinely do. It has to be a hard place for someone that is constantly so hateful and puts so much vitriol, name calling, and really tells lies about people in order to try to get his way or win some kind of fight. And I think that's exactly what's wrong in America today. That's what's wrong in this toxic political environment that has ripped our country apart. And I personally think that that's poor leadership from a president. It's a very bad demeanor, and Americans are very tired of it.
Yeah. Madam Mim in the chats goes, they are just taking the drugs to the other islands. Oh, great. There's another, I think he's a senator, might be a representative. I didn't pull the clip, but he's like, it's just cocaine. I mean, it's just a cocaine. It's not that big a deal. Then take it off Schedule 1. Okay, so you can see there, obviously she's become a little embittered.
Yeah. Who's she trying to appeal to now?
But why? Now, again, this is so hard. On one hand, it's like, Rick Grenell, I don't want to be that guy. I really don't want to cast stones or make allegations on my own. So I'm kind of echoing other people's. But, Marjorie Taylor Greene has a lot of questionable things going on with her relationships, open marriage before she ran for office. She's now just gotten through kind of a nasty little divorce stuff, right? Lots of innuendo allegations. What are the chances, man? What are the chances that she's, got to tack a different direction now because they got something on her? And it could just be insider trading. It would devastate her brand if people knew she was involved with that, because aren't you supposed to stand with Burkhart and the others against it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you just repent and move on?
You think. Now, Bongino is another one of these fascinating cases, right? Very outspoken on his radio show, measured, but outspoken, gets into his position here. And, we're looking for like fire and brimstones type stuff coming on. He gets on Hannity to talk about this pipe bomber arrest, and just listen to this.
FBI director, you put a post on X right after this happened. And you said there's a massive cover up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is, because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that, long before you were even thought of as deputy FBI director. Yeah.
Did you see that face?
Yeah.
This is, these little things are tells.
Long before you were even thought of as deputy FBI director.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think we're
pretty comfortable. We have our guy. You just ruined his life, by the way. But we're pretty comfortable.
The process starts to surface and information and facts start to come out. The public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. He's been great on this. But I don't want to listen, I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. And one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director. And we base investigations on facts. And, it was interesting. I was looking out in the crowd today at the presser, and I saw a couple of media figures who you and I both know who promoted the other scandal, the collusion hoax. And I thought to myself, the difference between us and them is, we evolve. As information and new inputs come out, we can produce different outputs because that's what we believe in. We believe in facts and investigations guided by facts. There were people out there in that crowd, I'm sure still believe in this collusion fairy tale hoax. So we'll see. We're going to be guided by the facts as this thing goes forward. And I can't stop the, I leave the truck here without thanking the president.
Look, I already had.
Feels rough, doesn't it? We got our guy. He doesn't map proportionally. We didn't do a gate analysis. There's no black powder.
The whole time, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what are you saying? Like, can we just have a few facts? Just the public? Can we see a few facts? Because it's so obvious to you. How come it's not so obvious to the rest of America?
But they're pretty sure they got their guy.
Yeah.
I love the beginning.
Yeah. That's why it's just the beginning of the investigation, Taylor. It's just the beginning. And as we drip the facts out, as we define what the facts are, over time, eventually, you will become comfortable.
We'll wear you down.
No, yeah, that's what he said. You'll become comfortable. The public will become comfortable.
Which is another way to say tired. You hate to ask the question, but what do they have on Bongino?
Yeah.
Right? Is it Bongino? It's not just Bongino. It could be family. It could be all kinds of other stuff. Patrick Byrne, one of the other things he released yesterday was an actual audio recording of a Pakistani man who's very good friends with Hunter Biden soliciting Iran, saying, we'll get $8 billion unfrozen from a South Korean bank account if you give us, guess how much? 10% for the big guy.
Oh.
Literally 10% for the big guy. And then they'll maybe be able to accept another bribe when it comes time for negotiating other matters, the Iran nuclear deal.
Let me tell you about this real quick.
Yeah.
If I can.
Oh, you got to read that one.
Dang it. It's not letting me.
Refresh.
How do I do it?
One of our regular listeners, Doug, says he appreciates all of our audio issues and technical issues. Shows the show's growing and you guys are maturing. I'm like, oh, thanks. No, you got to read that one. I will not let you.
I'm trying to find it again. It disappeared.
There it is, right there.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a good one. What do you mean it doesn't match?
There we go. Oh.
Go for it.
Okay. Blue Chew chewable tablets are made with active ingredients found in popular ED medications, but in chewable form and at a much more affordable price. No waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines, just a quick online visit. And once approved by a licensed medical provider, Blue Chew sends the chews straight to your door. Look, guys, Blue Chew is the upgrade button for your sex life. Level up and get your first month free at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our Rumble listeners. Try our first month of Blue Chew free. What? When you use promo code RUMBLE, just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code RUMBLE. All plans include an online health assessment, prescription medication, if appropriate, monthly refills, and ongoing medical support. A prescription will only be written if deemed medically appropriate after an online health assessment with a licensed provider. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information.
That's my favorite ad you've ever read. I don't know if you know what that was before you started reading it.
I did not.
Like, the irony of Ron reading this is hilarious. I've skipped over that ad in the past when it's shown up for me. So I just was like, oh, I got to watch Ron read this. This will be great for your sex life. Here's Ron saving marriages every day.
I did not know what it was.
That was great. Oh, that was wonderful. Oh, that was essentially a practical joke on me on Ron, letting him read that ad. I was like, hey, you got to read that one. Okay, so again, the question we're asking, what do they have on these people? So the judges have formed essentially a cartel to stand against Trump's nominees. And one of the people they've rejected was Alina Abba. We talked about this yesterday. So she's left New Jersey and she's now just working at large in the DOJ. Well, Alan Dershowitz had a little bit to say about this. Again, what do they have on these guys? Why would they do this?
And we're going to pick our people. This also, by the way, does have some application to today's decision by Haba to resign under pressure. It is clearly unconstitutional, 100% unconstitutional for judges to be in the business of picking U.S. attorneys. And when that case comes to the Supreme Court, it will be 9-0. And the Supreme Court will rule that federal judges have no power under Article 3 to do anything but to decide cases and controversies. They're not in the business of picking who the U.S. attorney should be. So this is the beginning of a longer process that will, I think, go on for most of the rest of President Trump's term. And we're going to pick our...
He's basically telling you this litigation is going to go on forever. They are obstructing. Ultimately, it'll be struck down in the Supreme Court because it's wildly unconstitutional what they're doing. But they can get away with it because who's going to stop them until you get the Supreme Court to say no more? What do they got on these judges? Why are these judges so opposed to law and order? Why are these judges so opposed to that stuff? Now, let's listen to Patrick Byrne. This is the clip that I've kind of was looking for that I couldn't find or found, but then couldn't find. This is Patrick Byrne describing how he's a CIA asset and how he was pulled in, right? He was brought up, as he says. How many other of these people that are in important policy position, judgeships, generals, colonels, lieutenant colonels, city councils? We know Mayor Bowser in LA went and trained in Cuba. She's a admitted Cuban asset. Oh, but I'm American, but I trained in Cuba, right? Makes no sense. How many times has this pattern been repeated under our noses and we don't get it?
That's huge. That's 2 huge bombshells right now. But I can't ignore the third. You just told us that you are CIA, sir. So how would you describe your role with the CIA, which you haven't revealed before?
Well, again, I was telling the truth when I said they frequently was reminded that you have a really non-standard relationship. You have that. It became kind of my mother relationship. I had lots of relationships across the government, but eventually I went from there to by 2010, 2011, Obama, I became something called a tier 1 intelligence asset. And then in 2010, 2011, Obama elevated me to national intelligence asset. I was told I was going to be the ace in the hole for all kinds of, for the real tough situations.
Real tough situations, like when we have to go against the electoral body in the United States and open the borders when they voted to close them, right? When the people want retribution and justice for Russiagate, but you're in a key position to let it slip. Or, hey, you're Chuck Grassley and whistleblowers come to you. Yeah, let's make you the gatekeeper. You see what I'm saying? For those really tough situations.
2010, that was after working for Brennan for 4 or 5 years. And then I continued doing all that stuff through 2016. And all this crazy stuff happened that I've told you about, where we set up the Russian hoax. That's why, I've talked around it because I was trying to hide that. But I've told these stories about how I got drawn into setting up the Russian hoax and the Hillary this and that. There was a little bit of fibbing there. I didn't want to explain the whole truth. I was doing that. I didn't just stumble into it. I was their go-to asset. I was the national intelligence asset. First, I got pulled under Brennan in 2006, and then 2011, I got moved into the White House. That's why I got mixed up in the Russian collusion and the Hillary stuff.
And there's actually a docu-series that General Michael Flynn produced about your life story, and this will make more sense now that you've shared this information if you go back and watch that docuseries. But why are you sharing this information now, Patrick? As we're looking at Venezuela and we're talking about our rigged elections, it seems to me that you feel that this is an important part of you that you need to let the people know. Why?
I've danced around long enough and it's not working. And the regret of my life is that I spent the first Trump term trying to dance around within my constraints. Buffett said, Patrick, when I went to see him, it was like my rabbi, he said, Patrick, just go on television and tell everything. And I just said I couldn't do that, but I went and told enough.
And we wonder why Buffett has all cash positions right now.
Right. Trying to shave. And I've had enough. We're having insurrection. We have an insurrection going on. People calling, these people calling, and don't you hate how that they say, well, we're not saying disobey Trump. We're just saying that if he gives you illegal orders, which is theoretically, then it's time for you to disobey Trump. So I want to tell people in the military who I know watch your show that theoretically, if you have officers, generals or colonels who try to get you to take part in a color revolution, please kill them for us citizens. Just shoot them in the face. We'll appreciate it theoretically.
Literally, but theoretically. I'm saying literally do it, but I'm saying theoretically you should literally do it. That's again, this is a case study. Right? This is a case study. He was Overstock.com CEO up until the day he turned. And he was a tier 1 national intelligence asset for John Brennan and Barack Obama. And he was the Overstock.com CEO. What are the odds that Jamie Dimon fits this category? What are the 100%. Odds, what are the odds that your local town mayor fits this category? What are the odds? So destabilizing in prison to hear from, guys that had been part of the gangs in Arkansas that knew that Bill Clinton was doing drugs and sleeping with prostitutes and local news anchors. And it was just this open secret that we're taking drugs out of the back of state trooper cars. Meanwhile, you've got Barry Seal flying those drugs into Mena, Arkansas. You know what I mean? Well, from where? From Pablo Escobar's operation, right next door to Venezuela. Which, by the way, Pablo Escobar was, what he got his start was trafficking things out of Venezuela into Colombia. That's how he started his smuggling ring. He was bringing in the coke and the other items too, just foodstuffs. Did you know that? He was a smuggler. Like, he was just bringing in literally like broccoli, because you couldn't get broccoli in Colombia at the time because of the left-wing government, or whatever, right-wing, whatever it was at the moment that he kind of got his start. And, well, if I can smuggle broccoli and beans, I may as well smuggle some coke. That's how it started. Okay, so Trump talks about our savior, not who you think it is. I think this is a little inappropriate to use this phrase, but he's talking about Scott Bessent. And Trump does something that he does sometimes. He calls Scott Bessent right out of central casting. I want to talk about this concept of central casting in just a minute.
So now, and we have our savior in this room. His name is Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, he said. Because that very handsome man, by the way, if you're picking the Secretary of the Treasury, is he like the perfect guy for a movie? He's made for the movie. Stand up, Scott. Look at him. No, he's central casting. He's central casting. But you don't, under that beautiful exterior is a killer. And here's what happened. He is in charge.
He's central casting, and under that beautiful exterior is a killer.
Charge of the investigation of Somalia and the billions of dollars they have robbed from Minnesota, right? I hope you do your job. I hope you're not one of these Republicans where something comes up and they don't do what they should do because they're nicer people. They're much nicer people than the Democrats, but Scott's actually not a nice person at all. So, Scott, you're in charge of that investigation? Okay, I'm not interfering at all. I'm just saying, please do a good job, honest and fair, right? Honest and fair. Oh, if he's honest and fair, you know what he's going to find? It's great. I'd love to have that job. I may switch jobs with you. I'd love to have that job.
Central casting. It's been alluded that when Trump says central casting, he's saying this is a CIA guy. This guy literally came out of the CIA Mockingbird. He's made for this position. Trump's last Treasury Secretary, he also called out a central casting. Steve Mnuchin also happens to be a part-time TV star, has an IMDb page. Okay, this central casting. What are the odds that Scott Bessent, who comes from high finance, the Soros organizations, works his way through Wall Street, might also be one of these tier 1 assets? Now, who's he working for? Clearly, Trump knows. If totally alleged, could just be literally, oh, look, he's tall. He looks like he's out of. Could be, but typically when he's out of central casting, it's kind of a scarlet letter from Trump. He's either, he knows, this is one of those,
Called
I know,
on the carpet.
and I know Trump knows, and I know Trump knows that I know that he knows,
right?
Which kind of reverses the blackmail thing. Now, keep in mind, Scott Bessent is a gay man.
Sure.
not necessarily on its surface a problem, but if you've been paying any attention to what Milo Yiannopoulos has been going on about, is these gay conservatives are some of the most degenerate out there. In fact, Milo Yiannopoulos is also, he's on a tirade to expose Con Inc., the gay conservative movement, as he calls it, that he believes he kind of gave birth to, one of the biggest regrets of his life. You aware of anything I'm talking about? He did a big Tucker Carlson podcast. Oh, yeah. Big Tucker Carlson podcast. He outed some people. But one of the things he mentions between that and then a later Timcast podcast that Milo did was Benny Johnson, big commentator, right? One of our competitors, clearly, you know, because we're at his level.
Yeah.
Benny Johnson, he's pushing this whole, oh, the machines are okay, we just need to have some better certifications. And Elon Musk is the one who's saving us from Venezuela, which is not really accurate. And why is he doing that? Well, Milo's like, because he's gay. Yeah, I know he's married and has a couple kids, and that's good for him. Encourage that life. But he's gay, and he's got blackmail.
Okay.
Milo's like, how do I know? Because I was there. That's what he says, right? He's like, sue me. There's a whole slew of these conning people that could be in this, what John Brennan describes. We'll just remind you of why you started being so patriotic.
Sure. And it could be that Donald Trump was doing that out loud in public right then.
Exactly. Here's my guy from Central Casting, but he'll do the right thing, right?
But he's not a good guy.
He's not a good guy. He's a killer.
He's a killer.
Again, I don't know. Trump's just being a comedian. Maybe he just does this. But gosh, if you go lay out everybody he's ever called out of Central Casting.
Wouldn't it be wild if the dirt they have on him is he killed somebody on camera? Ugh, he's a killer.
Yeah. I don't want to go that deep.
I know.
You know, now there's a book called
Sometimes I shouldn't say things out loud.
There's a book called Transformation of America. If you go read that book, and I don't even hardly want to describe it here, but it describes how the MK Ultra program is used with the actual spies themselves. Okay. And one of the things you'll see in there is this possibility that Trump is using, you know, a faction of this compromised network is high, very high possibility, even probability, right? That our government is so infiltrated by people that are controlled by some other entity. And who knows if those entities are working together, right? Like you got one guy might be controlled by a Muslim Brotherhood faction, another one controlled by a Venezuelan faction, another one controlled by a CCP faction, another one controlled by French intelligence. Well, you have no idea. They're just trying to push whatever their agenda is. And we're kind of caught in the crosshairs as Americans going, is everything propaganda?
Right.
Right. It might be.
Well, yeah, probably is.
Yeah.
But it's just a different source.
Yeah. So here's Donald Trump still continuing to go on with Scott Bessent. And he's also talking about the auto pen scandal. How far has this auto pen scandal gone? Right? What are the objectives of the enemies of America? Take over finance, take over our land, our property, our wealth, destroy our constitutional order, right? All those things are things that they're looking at. Well, kind of plays into this here.
I hear that the auto pen may have signed those commissions. If they signed those commissions, now maybe I'm wrong, but we're going to check. Have you checked that? Are you hearing it? Who signed it? Did he sign it or did the auto pen sign it? I'm hearing the auto.
Now you might be asking yourself, the auto pen signed what? The Federal Reserve Governor's Board's commissions for the people sitting on the board that Biden put in. Might have been auto penned.
Oh, gee.
You know, you can't use the auto pen unless it's very strongly authorized, unless you show you know what the hell you're doing, which is impossible of him to show. So, I don't know. I think it's something we have to look into. You put people there that are not authorized to be there. I know I signed Chris Wright. I signed everything, but I signed Chris Wright. If I gave you an auto pen, they could throw you the hell out of here, Chris. The difference is they would do it, you know? We try and be too nice. No, would you check that, Scott, okay? Because I'm hearing that the auto pen could have signed maybe all four, but maybe a couple of them. We'll take.
So now that I got you, Scott, over a barrel, I just exposed you to a whole rally crowd. You're going to look into that auto pen thing, right? Scary. All right, we'll leave on this for our public side. We still have a little bit to do in our private, but Elon Musk's ending the way we started. Elon was asked about who's the most inspirational person. He said the creator, and he defined the creator of God as God. Very cool. He also was asked about conspiracies. And this is a funny one because, Ron, you and I have joked about this. I remember back when we were doing it before I went to prison, you were like, man, I thought this was like a conspiracy show. And I looked at you and I was like, You thought this was a conspiracy show? Like, no, this is just cutting edge news, man. Nothing's conspiracy. That's the whole point. I'm trying to debunk the conspiracy that this is a conspiracy. Well, Elon Musk said it straight up.
I mean, which conspiracy theories haven't come true at this point? We've run out of conspiracy theories that, because it will come true, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if any aliens. People always ask me if there are aliens. I have seen no evidence of aliens. No one on the SpaceX senior team has any evidence of aliens, because I've asked the team, like, guys, am I missing something? Has anyone on the team, has anyone seen any evidence of aliens?
Does that include UFOs?
That's just an unidentified flying object. So UFOs, like, it could be like some new weapons program or whatever. That's, some hypersonic missile or something like that. That would be technically a UFO, but it's just basically some weapons prototype. It's not like aliens.
It was interesting, but I have a feeling we're going to find out there's aliens. All right, guys, that's it for us in private, or in public, excuse me, on the public side. We're going to go jump over into subscription only, or Rumble Premium only, right? We call it the private side, or the unoffendables.